Courtney, you want to do the intro?
Oh, you go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, hey, welcome everybody to Purple Martin Fanatics' first Fireside Chat of 2023. Welcome. Thank you for joining. This Fireside Chat is hosted by myself, Kathy Fries, and Courtney Russo, and Brad Biddle, and Bill Winger. We are all admins and basically the owners of the Purple Martin Fanatics website group in Purple Martin. In Facebook, sorry, that word wouldn't come out. So thank you for joining. The Fireside Chat is just that. Anybody can chat about anything about Purple Martins or questions you have, burning questions that you want to know about why Brad is bald or
with a goatee
or whatever you want to talk about. Greg Ballard here is on also, and he's our shooting expert. He can help you with just about anything regarding shooting, except Brad can help too, but he's probably gonna miss his shot because he's not really focused. But anyway, we are recording this again just to let everybody know. If you're not comfortable with that, you may want to drop off. But got any questions, now's the time. And Lou, since you offered earlier, I'll let you kick it off and start with you. So welcome.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Lewin Champlin from Olive Branch, Mississippi. It's just right below Tennessee, below Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm new. I was fishing in a pond and I saw these I guess they're purple martin. So I looked at and they sang beautifully and also fly beautifully. So after fishing, I went home and did some research and I decided to pursue this hobby. First thing I did was I ordered the plan of how to make a house from Chuck Abari. And I slowly built the house. It took me 6 months. And while I was waiting, I built 16 gourd rack from his plans too.
Wow.
Anyways, they're both hanging right now. And I'm seeing some subbies right now. And I'm like nervous and I'm hoping they stay. Okay, one other thing, the house I put up, I forgot to put up the SREH entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And the crested great flycatcher moved in.
Oh
and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have time to put in the SREH and I can't kick them out. So I'm praying that if I get the purple martins, they will get along. So I'm here to try to learn as much as possible.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
So question about your great crested flycatchers. Do they have eggs already?
No, they don't. I looked in there and I saw snake skins. So I typed in what kind of birds use snake skin. And I came up with the flycatcher and I saw the crested head on the male.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just praying that since I don't have a colony yet, that they'll get along this year and I'll have to move the house. I'll have to make a house for them next year. Please.
Courtney, can you chime in on this one?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. So I have a little bit of experience with great crested flycatchers. They are an awesome bird, another one of our native cavity nesting species. They can be rather territorial, and they're in that group tyrant flycatchers. So they can be pretty aggressive. I would not count on them sharing the martin housing with the martins. So I'd recommend if they don't already have eggs, to go ahead and close off the entire martin house and put up separate housing for the flycatchers. They will nest in a large nest box. You can find plans for them online. or you can put up a gourd for them. They also like gourds. They particularly like natural gourds.
Okay, I did put one up, but after our meeting tonight, I'll close it off. Because, I mean, I devoted a lot of time into building the house and the gourd. So
Yes.
I'll take your advice.
Yes.
So Lou, what might help too is move that entire nest out of that cavity before you plug it, and try putting that in your other house or your gourd. And you move it away from the house, that might help entice them. Maybe even leave the snake skin hanging out of the hole of the new gourd or house, whatever you're going to put them in.
Yes, I will. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I'll do that.
that might help attract them to it. Maybe you could put the gourd on a shepherd's hook, like about 10 feet away from your house that you plug, you know,
Yes.
so when they land on the house, they can see it from above. That might
Yeah.
help. Good.
Okay.
Good. Boy, I'm really glad you joined us tonight, because that's a problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lou, what about the tree situation in your yard or around your gourd racks?
I am 40 feet from magnolia tree on the side of the house, 60 feet from my back porch, and what else can I say? And behind it is like a half acre of grass.
Oh, good.
The
Good.
reason I ask is great flycatchers are usually like to nest more in trees, around trees. I mean, they're cavity nesters, but they usually like trees. So I was making sure you weren't too close to trees with your martin housing.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not always, but sometimes.
Yeah. They are like they prefer forest area. I was curious. I was surprised that they chose the house. So.
Well, sometimes birds don't always stick to the rules that we try to give them. So,
Yeah.
you know, we always, they talk about tree swallows won't nest within 50 feet. That's their territory of each other. And last year I had tree swallows nesting back to back on the same post. So no, they don't always follow the rules, but very cool. Very cool. A little bit of a tough problem to have, but you have a solution, and please get back to us and let us know how it goes.
Okay, I will. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting problem. Not your usual. Okay. Well, stay with us. If you have any more questions, you might hear something funny from somebody else here too. Who knows? But all right. So who else would like to go? Anybody have any questions?
You have any questions? You know it.
Nancy.
I was telling him he knows just about as much as I do now.
I heard that.
He says he doesn't know enough to ask a question.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe that.
Jennifer, you're first attendee here. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your situation?
Sure. My name's Jennifer Yankaski, and I am in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. If anybody have ever heard of February 2nd, Groundhog's Day, weather prediction,
You're there.
I'm there. Rodent predicts our spring. I put my first house up last year. I had several here off and on through June. And in August, I had a flock of at least 50 or 60 stay here for the day when they were migrating south. I was addicted from the get-go. So this spring, I bought a Gemini 24 rack, and I have it up with the T14. And if any of you caught my post here 3 weeks ago when we had that cold spell, I was the one that was the girl trying to feed the little guy crickets on my cement pad in front of my greenhouse, and he was on my exhaust fan. He was struggling.
And he took them. He took them from
Well, I almost had him in the greenhouse to warm up. He was that weak. But over the past 3 weeks, I've seen a lot of activity. Just here, in the past few days, I've seen a couple of pairs. I've had 6 fly over. I've had 4. And 3 days ago, I had a sub male come, and he is been here for 3 days.
Oh,
And
good.
another sub, I believe, showed up this morning, and they were together. They did leave this afternoon, and I haven't seen them since, but I'm hoping they went to get friends. Also, I was the one that posted a few days ago that I was having a very territorial bluebird problem.
Okay.
I've had a pair of bluebirds here year round since last year. The bluebird house nest box is 35 feet in front of the 2 purple martin houses. And when the first couple martins start to show up, they were sitting on top of the perch rods of the purple martin houses and weren't allowing it. They were chasing everything off. I tried different approaches. I've been in very close contact with Bill Winger, and him and I have been working some different angles. And finally, 2 days ago, this sub male just had enough. And when one of the bluebirds was on top of the perch, he did a drive-by, and he came down and he just put his feet on the back of that male bluebird and sent him going to the tree.
Yes.
So finally, the female kind of got the hint, and that occurred 3 or 4 times yesterday. Every time this male purple martin would come in, he just kicked that bluebird off and said no. So finally, we have peace and harmony today. The other one showed up, and they've been sticking to their houses. Bluebirds have been staying in their bluebird box house. She's got another nest built, and they've been getting along great. The same
That's-
airspace,
Yeah.
everything. So it finally, they worked it out. It just took that male a little bit of courage to say, no, I think I want to stay here. So you got to get.
That's
And right
awesome.
beside it, not even 30, 40 feet, is a tree swallow box. And the tree swallows just sit and kept watching all the entertainment. They did not care about the bluebirds, and they didn't care about the martin. They were just happy to watch the show. So I do have 3 nest boxes on my property that are filled with tree swallows,
Mhm.
and the bluebirds have went to theirs, and they are strictly staying in their box. And I'm hoping these 2 martins come back, if not tonight, tomorrow, but they were here most of the day, and then they left. So I'm praying that I'll at least have 1 pair this year. But the bluebird thing had me pretty scared. I thought for sure there wasn't going to be a martin allowed anywhere, since they had been here since last summer and all winter. And I was afraid that they were considering this whole area their territory, and they weren't going to allow the martins in, but they allowed the tree swallows. They never had a problem with the tree swallows. But boy, they had a vendetta against those martins when they first started coming.
That's funny. It's a lot of people talk about the mean little subadults that come to their sites, established colonies. But the truth of the matter is those are the ones that will start the new colonies like yours. And the mean ones, especially the aggressive, assertive subadults, are the ones that will, like you have seen, just kick the bluebirds right off and say, no, dude, we're claiming this one. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yes. And the thing of it is I was so worried because everybody else was saying in the group, they don't have a problem with their bluebirds, but these are people that have established colonies.
Right.
I do not. And this is what was scaring me, and especially trying to start a colony, more or less it's going to be a sub. And I just needed that right sub. What was funny is the day or so before that, the 6th that came in, I had one ASY male, and I don't know if maybe he was bringing them and showing them, but I'd actually been on the phone with Bill at the time because we were discussing the bluebird issues. And I said, Bill, I just had 6 come in, and one is a grown male. He's solid purple and he's beautiful. And even the bluebirds, they even were trying to go against those. So it just was one of those things. I just needed that right bird to say, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm sticking up for myself, and you go to your spot and I'll stay at mine.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, great news. Bill's our hero.
He's my hero, that's for sure. And I feel so bad because I probably pester him like 100 times a day, but he has been so helpful, and so understanding, and tons of information and ideas. And if it wasn't for Bill, I don't think I would have got this far. I really don't. I mean, he's been there since the moment I said, where do I put the post for this Gemini? So he's been absolutely wonderful helping me. So I really can't thank him enough. I really can't.
That's why we love having him in our group. He is a wealth of information for a lot of people. So good.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Bill, for all your dedication to that.
Kyle has his hand up.
Yep. Kyle, you have a question for Jennifer?
Well, so sort of the whole group. Many of you know the issues that I've been having with the Holt, Florida colony, specifically the Merlin, earlier this season, hunting those martins pretty much day and night. And with the added potential of a great horned owl shortly after. Luckily, there haven't been any more instances or evidence of that great horned owl hunting that colony. So that's a good thing. But to go off the SY birds finding new colonies and establishing, for any of you that have banding knowledge or records or have dealt with long-term martin banding projects, do you know what your return rate is for SYs returning to the colony they were banded in following years? Uh-oh, I stumped the experts.
I wasn't sure if that was a statement or a question. I know generally speaking, it's a 10% return rate.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess my big question is, so here's my issue. I've got 25 geolocators that are going out in Holt this year. I've got confirmed 16 ASY males. Most of the pairs there are the mixed couples. So ASY birds with SY birds, solely SY pairs. But it looks like I'm going to need to put some geolocators on SY birds. And I'm wondering if that's a total crapshoot, or if they have a successful year this year, if they will return.
Kyle, this is Kathy. I can tell you that I think we banded here 2 or 3 years in a row here at my site, and I kept pretty good records of the returns. We didn't do geolocators, of course. We did banding returns. Mm-hmm. And I can send you the data if you'd like to parse through it and see. Myself, for the number of nestlings that we banded, I didn't think the returns were very high at all.
Yeah, our return rate for nestlings having been banded is terribly low, especially at Brad's. Sorry, Brad. And it lends to.
Yeah, they're not good at mine either.
Yeah, and pretty much everywhere. So I know that the HY birds that we banned, for those of you who are new to the chat, HY is hatching year, so birds that hatch that year. SY is second year, so birds in their second year of life.
Well, my reporting, Kyle, also includes the hatch year birds that return the next year as a subadult, but then also the next year following up. And the numbers really drop off after 2 years and 3 years. But I can send it to you and you can take a look, because I've took notes in each one of which one, if they were a subadult when they returned, if they were an adult when they returned, and things like that. So, and if maybe you can use it, maybe you can't, but I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I'd love to dig through it. Thanks.
Okay.
I don't know if, can you hear me or not?
Yes, we can hear you, Paula.
Hi.
Yes, Paula.
Hey.
I was going to say we had an event here, and I know they say only 10% of the martins return to their natal site, but I would say of the martins that we found that passed away during this last event that we had, I would say at least half of them were banded. and they were banded from the island, they came back. So we get a lot of return birds here. And the
Wow.
ones that were banded were 2018, 19, 20, 21. So, they're coming back year after year, I'm sure, to this location, but.
Man, those are some incredible returns.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm sorry that you lost those birds, but
Yeah.
that's some really good records.
I would venture a guess on that, saying that down here in the South, it's not uncommon at all to see martin colonies, and most of them are small. 99% of them are unmanaged, but the SYs have a lot more places to spread out when they come back to nest. Now, again, that's just a guess. There may be 40 martin colonies on Bass Island. I don't know. But I would think that we have more colonies down here. We have more martins. So I maybe it's because they don't have as many places to go spread out. I'm just throwing out ideas. I don't know if that's.
Well, so I can tag in on that too. So the Florida colony is normally full, if not full, close to full of ASY birds. And then with the Merlin this year, either eating a lot of them or driving most of them off, it's starting to fill up with SY birds. So I'm wondering if the SYs that showed up after the Merlin left, if they will attempt to breed, whether they're successful or not, we'll have to see. But if they're like, oh yeah, this is a great place to nest, there aren't very many predators, we'll come back next year, just because they happen to miss the Merlin this spring.
Probably. It's, I guess your question is how many of them will survive the migration.
Exactly. Yeah.
Question for Paula and Kathy too, I guess. And well, I forgot what my question was going. I forgot what my question was going. Oh my God. Oh, what percentage of your nestlings did you band?
All of them.
You did band all of them?
All of them, yeah.
What about you, Paula?
We don't band all of them. We hit the date when they're 22 days of age, the eldest, and then the bander comes in and gets everything they can. And so we're missing some birds, maybe a quarter of them or less than that, maybe 20% we don't band or something like that.
Okay, that answered exactly what I was wondering, because I know I can't tell you numbers without pulling records, but I think we probably banded, what would you say, Kyle, 2/3 of my nestlings last year?
Yeah, easily. Although
we could have gotten 3/4 of them.
Yeah, it's 2/3 or 3/4 of the birds in your 4 racks in your backyard, but you also have racks 100 yards away.
Right. Well, I'm thinking, I could have some SYs back here that actually that were raised in my backyard that just didn't get banded. Now, we don't know that. We're just speculating, but so I was wondering if both of y'all banded all of your nestlings, but that was answered with a no. So that's an incredible return rate considering you didn't band all your nestlings.
Well, Paula, that also begs the question, how many nestlings did you have over your banding seasons?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh God. I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. Normally when with the colonies we have here on the island, the bander ends up doing about 450 birds. Then I have birds in Central Ohio too, but we don't band those. So I'd say about 450 every season.
Okay. I think we banded somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 some odd birds at Brad's, maybe a little more than that. That's
pretty good. That's a lot.
Because I'm a martin hog.
I know. You and Greg.
I'm a little bitty pig compared to Greg Ballard.
Yeah, I see Greg back there nodding his head.
Greg, we're worried about you. Did you get any birds back this year? 1 or 2 or?
Maybe 3.
Maybe? Okay, good.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
of these days,
One pair per gourd rack.
one of these days, I'm going down to Greg Ballard's and I'm just gonna sit on his porch in awe. Because
Yeah,
every time I see one of his videos, I'd probably replay it 100 times.
that's cool.
It's just mesmerizing. I just love that whole setup. It's gorgeous.
Come on
Jennifer,
down.
Jennifer, if you sit somewhere and you are in awe, do you have your mouth open?
No, I'm
Because-
just grinning.
Okay,
I'm just
good. 'Cause
grinning.
if you're going to Greg's, don't sit out there with your mouth open.
What happens at Greg Ballard stays at Greg Ballard.
There you go.
Well, can I ask those of you that live a lot further south than like Bill and I here in PA, how many, like right now, how many subs are you guys really seeing on a daily basis that we still have to see possibly come up here on the average, if you could give any number? Because I know different times Bill and I have spoken. He said the best is yet to come, and
That's true.
I watched the migration maps, even though I don't know if martins really migrate much at night. I don't know, but just to know for a time frame what I'm looking at and what you guys are seeing in the south that we can still, obtain up here.
So I'm in North Carolina and I start seeing subadults towards the end of April. And I see them all the way through the first week of June. And
Okay.
then
Are
after
you
that, I
seeing,
don't see any more.
are you seeing a lot right now?
A couple weeks ago, I saw a whole lot of them. It's kind of evened out now. My colony is totally full, so they are dispersing elsewhere right
Okay.
now. Mhm.
Okay.
I would say that about the same as Courtney here in Missouri. I'm in South Central Missouri, and our big peak, I think, was last week. There were a lot of subadults still sitting out on the gourd arms at night in the evening, so I knew I was full, and they were going to have to go find another place to nest. But I would say we peaked here in Missouri last week,
Okay.
and they're moving. They're moving northward right now. So you should be seeing, well, along with Bill, over the next week or 2 weeks, maybe, Bill, they would peak up there.
That'd be probably 2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be some big moves into the area.
I remember last year when I came across my T14, I actually found it in a local town, about 20 minutes away. Lady didn't even really know what it was, and an Amish gentleman had built it in 1975. And when she bought this house, of course, they couldn't attract martins because there was so many huge oak trees around it, and she just wanted it out of her yard, and I got it for $75.
Wow, that is good.
Yeah, I come with the post, the T14, the winch, everything. So we loaded up, brought it home. We put it up Memorial Day weekend last year, and we actually had martins come and land and look around into the middle of June, but none stayed. So my timing for last year was late, and
Right.
I wasn't near, familiar with them or have near the information like I do this year. So I'm really trying to watch and see and kind of get an idea of when I should see what would be our peak, kind of going off of what you guys have been seeing down there and what should be coming up here as far as a time frame.
Okay. Yeah, you've got time now, and it sounds like they're already checking you out. That's great news.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping more come. I'm hoping the 2 that were here come back. I'll even be happy with that.
Yeah. They do that quite often. They spend the day checking out your gourd racks and stuff, but then they have to eat. So they'll leave late afternoon and go eat, and then they'll come back right before sunset and
Oh,
dive
that
into
late.
the gourds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's warm.
It is now, but we have a freeze warning for tonight. We're supposed to go down to 28, 29. But that should be the last. But right back up to 70 tomorrow. So it'll just be in the morning.
It's funny. Mine always seem to know when it's going to be really cold at night. So they come home a little bit earlier. and get
Yeah.
into their gourds. It's almost like they're weather predictors, but yeah, they'll stay out till late evening feeding, and then hopefully you'll see them in the morning. Let us know if you do.
I will. As far as when the male sub has been here the past 3 days, I go out at the crack of dawn because I have to, I'm hanging bird feeders and hummingbird feeders. I have to take everything down at night. We have a bear. I had a 500-pound one at my front door 2 nights ago. I sent Bill the video off my security camera. He came right across my front door and he sniffed my wreath, and he was just being a pain.
Wow.
But I have to have everything out first thing in the morning or all the birds are mad at me.
Right.
And he's been here. I mean, it's just barely breaking daylight and he's on the perch. So that makes me feel better. I think that's a good sign that he's here that early.
He probably may already be spending the night. Yeah, that is a good sign.
And he has no problem using the Connolly 2 entrances. When he first got here, he just ducked his head and walked right in. He's been in the T14 and the gourds both, and he has no issue going in and out. So he must be familiar with them.
Excellent.
When Kathy, when I was a wannabe landlord, I wouldn't see many visitors until Memorial Day weekend or after. It just seemed like
Wow.
we're surrounded with colonies. A lot of the ones that I started at public sites, they just didn't seem to, they were going to the established sites and just staying there as long as they could. And then, finally you'd start seeing rollovers, Memorial Day weekend and a little bit after. But the population's increased a lot since then.
Right. Wow, that's amazing how late that is. Of course, I'm looking now and I'm just starting to get eggs laid, and they're already fledging in Florida. So it's hard to imagine that, isn't it?
Yep.
We're still waiting for green leaves.
We had our first eggs. Well, we had 5 nests with 12 eggs as of yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So, but we fed them so much during the cold spell that they come out of it really healthy. And about that great crested flycatcher, you got to get rid of it. Get it out of your house because they will not let martins nest.
Thank you. Yeah. I will, Bill.
Okay.
Nancy, how's your colony doing this year?
Phenomenally.
Yeah.
I'm surprised every year, but we spend most of the spring restructuring our backyard to make it bird friendly. Last year we literally ripped out every live plant, every bush, everything. And we are re-landscaping and planting plants that will attract butterflies and dragonflies and all kinds of flies.
Excellent.
And we're getting rid of the trees. We do have, we are on an easement. There's an easement, and we have a bunch of big, tall pine trees that have been here for 20, 30 years. And we have no control over those, but my husband and I sneak out there on the weekends with our chainsaw and try to cut off as many branches as we can to kind of clear the way.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's coming along, and we have, every day I have new birds coming in. As Brad will attest to, I keep naming them and I'm running out of names.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, Chewbacca's going to be the next one if he can just find a mate, but he's got to change his mating call. He's just not going to attract him with that call. Yeah. Oh, but it's going extremely well. Now we do have a T14. We can't seem to get anybody to take up residence in that, but that's okay. We're still not completely filled up in our gourds and our chirpy nests. So the gourds are filled. The chirpy nests are still working on, getting residents. So, yeah, but it's exciting. We're at the point now they're nesting, and we've got brown leaves, no green leaves yet. And so I'm expecting in the next couple of weeks, maybe we will have some egg activity.
Excellent.
So yeah, we're excited. And my husband, this started out as my hobby. Well, my hubby has now joined me.
He's
And-
joined the crazy.
You know, he asked me questions. I don't know half the time what I'm talking about, but I try to educate him.
It looks like you're doing a great job from your picture.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. You know, for two old people that have nothing else to do, this is a great hobby.
It is a great hobby.
Well,
Yeah.
we spend every evening we sit out in our backyard and wait for those birds to come home so we can see how many pairs we actually have. Because we know by the end of the day who's paired up.
Right,
You
right,
can't really tell during the day because there's just a whole crowd of them.
right,
You know, they're having a big party.
right. They
Well,
are.
Nancy, if it makes you feel any better, that's like a carbon copy at my household because my husband drives coal bucket all day. He hauls for the coal mines.
Uh-huh.
And starting first thing in the morning and several times through the day, he's texting me, any Martins yet? Any Martins yet? And then when we got this one, he's like, is he still there? Is he still there? And I'm like, yes. And then today I said, well, we just got another one. And 3 more times through the day. Are they still there? What are they doing? What's going on? So it's the same thing. It's just started as my hobby and I wanted these birds. And
Yeah.
then he kind
he
of got
got
hooked. And
interested.
now
Yeah, my
I
husband-
think he's worse than me because he named this first one that we have already. He's already gave it a name.
Oh
So,
yeah,
you know,
we
he's
give all
texting
of
me.
ours.
Yeah, he's texting me through the day. Is Mark still there? Is Mark still there? And I'm like, how'd you come up with this name, Mark? He goes, because he's just so Mark, he kicked that bluebird off the perch. I'm just like, so his first one's named Mark, I guess.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, he's hooked just as bad as me.
Oh
So-
yeah.
So I have a question for you guys. Here's a trivia question for the night. Do you know how many different calls a purple martin has?
Oh my goodness.
No Googling.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
I want to say 70.
No.
I know how many a mockingbird has.
How many does a mockingbird have? Because I'm interested.
200.
No way.
Yes, mockingbirds have 200. We have mockingbirds here, and thank goodness they stay well off in the field and they can be extremely territorial. They will kill a lot of other birds just over a food source. And they will sit on my power lines in the morning, and you would think that I have every bird in the universe here because of the different sounds they make, and they do. They have over 200. They can mimic almost any songbird they want.
That's cool. Courtney, you have your hand raised?
Yes. So for those of you that have chirpy nests, I'd like to know what you think about them. What's been your nesting success in them? Tell me about the health of the nestlings, issues with mites or any parasites. Any reviews you can give me would be helpful.
Well, this is my first year having chirpies. And we have pre-nested them. We've noticed nest bowls being built in them, but we've not gotten past the nest bowl stage. Nobody has taken up serious residence. They've gone to the gourds first. What I'm expecting is that now that the gourds are filled with our new, Han Solo and Princess Leia taking up the last gourd, the chirpies are what's left. And so I'm hoping that within the next couple of weeks, we get some serious residents, taking up, their space there. But, I haven't had any personal experience with how they work. All I know is what I have read from other people that have used chirpies. The one thing I do like about the chirpies is they stay dry. Here in Nebraska, we have a lot of rain. We had a huge storm the other night that actually the deck that we just had built that's supposed to be waterproof isn't. We found out. Yeah. And so the next day we checked all of our gourds, and all of the gourds were dry because I've waterproofed everything, and the chirpy nests were completely dry. And it's the way that they're built. I mean, they literally are on a slant. They have an opening at the back, so any moisture, if there's any condensation, it just goes away. So I've been really happy with the setup. I just haven't had any experience with any birds really, taking up residence in them. But I'll let you guys know.
Well, what is a chirpy? Because I'm new. I've seen that word in the group, but
Yeah.
can somebody explain what that is?
It is it's a rectangular box.
Okay.
And the way that it's mounted, you can mount it next to your gourds, but it slants down. So the birds come in and you have, the interior part slides out. So you can completely remove the interior to do a nest check and all that. But in the basic part of the unit, at the very back, it has an opening. So if you have you'll have some pine needles that fall out. Any moisture that's there will, there's a picture of it right there.
Yeah, just for reference.
Oh, so it's a type of housing compartment. It's a type of house.
It's a house, yeah, and it's just
okay. I see.
just
Yes,
a different looking kind of gourd.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but so I've been impressed by what I've heard about them, and what I've seen. And so I thought I'd give them a try. I've had the horizontal and the vertical gourds. And so I'm always up to trying something new, just anything to hopefully increase my numbers. I'm hoping that we end up maybe even putting up another rig eventually. I don't know that our homeowners association will like it. We live in a golf course community. So, there are a lot of pretty strict regulations. But nobody seems to complain. Actually, people walk by our house and are always asking about, what are those birds? So
how many cavities are you offering now, Nancy?
How many cavities?
Yeah.
Well, right now my gourd rig has 12. Okay, and then I have a T14.
Okay.
And the T14, half of it's closed up because half of the T14 faces the easement, which is on the other side of a fence. And my fear was that I would have jumpers. And there's no way I could jump a fence to rescue a jumper. So we basically just close off everything that goes toward the easement, but we keep the ones facing our yard open.
Okay.
So, but we did end up putting in a gate on our fence. So now I can open up the gate and go out if I have to rescue somebody.
Oh, good.
But with a total hip replacement, it's real hard to leap over a fence.
Right. Yep. They tend to discourage that after they replace it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but it's all going well. We're real happy with everything so far, and are looking forward to actually having some babies at some point.
Courtney?
Our key was getting the trees out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that always helps. That's a big one for purple martins.
Yeah, we basically opened up a flight path for them because we have a golf course lake on the other side of the street. So, they start there, they get their water, then they fly over and they come right into our backyard. We used to have trees there and now we don't. So they have a clear path, and it's fun to watch them. It's like sitting at the airport watching planes land.
Sure. Kyle, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just another question for you guys. And Paula may be the best person to answer this. But with the polar vortexes in recent years and losing martins to the cold, I'm wondering if y'all have a decent handle on why you lose martins during the cold. Because birds themselves are pretty cold hardy. Is it more the lack of food that is killing these birds, or is it the actual cold?
Lack of food.
Lack of food. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not the cold per se. I don't believe that's a problem. It's lack of food. You get 3 days and they can't eat and they die. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
As long as they can eat, they'll stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Courtney, I have one chirpy box. I've had it for 3 years. The first 2 years it sat empty, and last year I had a nesting subadult pair, and the ASY came back this year and just grabbed that chirpy box.
Oh, good.
But I probably have the only chirpy box in Western Pennsylvania.
Probably.
Well, we never
What do you
heard
guys-
from Courtney the answer to the trivia question.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we got a little distracted, didn't we? The answer is 11. They have
How
11.
many?
11.
11, that's it.
11.
Wow.
Well,
I
yeah,
thought-
compared to the mockingbird, they're losers, but but I imagine everybody's a loser to the mockingbird. But anyway, yes, they have 11 different calls, and actually they give these calls at different times of the year. So I'll post those 11 calls in our group, and then you guys can check them out and go out and listen and see if you actually hear them.
Isn't one of them called a chew or a choo-choo?
Yes, it's
I've been here. That's a female call, if I'm correct. I've been hearing that recently. I don't know.
it
If
is
has
a
something-
female call. It's used when escorting the
Airplane.
fledglings back to the nest.
Well, sometimes it's used when escorting their husband back to the nest, because I've been
Yeah.
hearing
From the
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
Is there a list of those you can post? Like
Yes.
that type of noise is
Yeah.
interpreted as, like you said, encouraging the nestlings back, or a mating call. Is there a list of those types of sounds you could post? Because I was actually looking to read up on some of that.
Yes, it's a Purple Martin Conservation Association link, and they have the list there, and I'll post the list on our site after tonight's call.
Okay, thank you.
Great, great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
Kyle,
who else? Huh?
back to the cold weather briefly. Year before last, we had the polar vortex. I had one martin come back, and I had to feed him for 9 straight days.
Oh, wow.
Our high temperatures didn't get above the low 40s for 9 days, with nighttime lows in the teens, and he was perfectly fine in his gourd. But now he was eating very well. He ate about $100 worth of super worms in 9 days.
Well, so the whole reason I asked was because for those of you who don't know me or are new to the group, I'm a bird bander, and I study a lot of different species, both residents to Southern Alabama and migrants that move through our area. So I've been hands-on with migrant birds for going on 18 years now. And a lot of the different species that we track and work with and research are extremely cold hardy. Probably the best example being Western species of hummingbirds, who can survive temps into the teens by going into something called torpor. So they basically lower their heart rate and slow everything down, sort of enter this trance-like sleep. So I figured that martins were just as hardy, but that was the reason for the question.
But I wonder if also that would play a part in precipitation. Like what I went through with the one feeding the crickets, we were getting just 3-4 days of solid rain mixed with snow, and these birds were drenched. And I mean, I know eating helps keep them warm, but when you're wet and you're cold, I wonder if that would make a difference as far as staying wet and they can't get dry.
It does. It makes a huge difference. So one of the banding protocols that we follow is we do not have mist nets open during the rain, and that's a twofold thing. So normally whenever we're catching birds passively in mist nets, sometimes they will end up head down in a mist net. So if it rains, we don't want water to drip down through their feathers and then down off their bill, because they'll aspirate that water. So that's number one. But number two, they lose a whole lot of body heat when they're wet. So if they're wet and can't stay dry and they can't preen it or find a dry spot to really dry out, that can have a big adverse effect.
Well, I know that one that was here for that day or so. I mean, he was literally dripping, but it was just raining and snowing. And even though I, fed him, he ended up eating 14 crickets. I don't know if he made it. He never came back. But after the fact, I got to thinking about it. And I honestly think if I would have took a gourd down and tried to put it by that exhaust fan at my greenhouse where he was staying, because the exhaust fan comes out as a slant and that metal was warm. I'm just wondering if I couldn't have got them in that gourd, I could have took them in and hung them up off of one of the purlins in my greenhouse, and he would have warmed up and stayed and surely got dry. But again, I didn't think of it till after the fact. But even though, you know, they're eating, if they're just soaking wet with the cold, I was wondering how much food they have, if that would even still get them through if they're soaked. It's 34, 38 degrees.
Right. Greg, what do you got
Kyle,
there?
Kyle, I wonder,
Hang on just
This-
Say hi.
This is a female martin that just got chased into the pond. So she splashed down and she couldn't fly. So I've caught her and I'll let her
Is it a
dry off,
nestling?
turn her loose.
Is it a nestling?
No, it's a full grown adult.
Oh,
sometimes the males gang up on them. They get a
Yeah.
little hormonal crazy and
Yeah,
Ah.
she hit the pond and she's soaking wet. She can't get flat.
oh.
They wouldn't leave her alone. So I went ahead and captured her and I'll let her dry off and then I'll turn her loose again.
you know,
How
Greg,
did you get out of the pond? A fish net?
So if you stay in the water, you might get ate by a bullfrog or a turtle.
or a hawk,
Bass.
or a hawk will come down and get her.
Yeah. How did you get her out of the pond? Did you use a
I
fish?
just went over there and caught her.
Oh.
You can see they're pretty, actually almost tame, right? So they're very trusting of people.
This is her video debut.
Yeah.
That is a dark side of purple martin landlording
Yeah.
that most people
I
don't
hate
want to talk about. It's called
I hate
forced copulation.
Yeah.
That is
Gang rape.
that is a birding term that means gang rape. And when I got out of my pickup, I was almost late to start our meeting. I got detained at work, but I had the same exact thing. I had about 10 males took one down in my garden, and she luckily got free. But I keep my trusty 22 rifle with me at all times for shooting starlings and sparrows. And I have learned, instead of chasing them across the yard, when I see them start flocking after one, I just shoot one of the fence posts on the pasture fence. And that
Or you can have
breaks
a
up.
gong. I don't know if you can see it, but I have a gong sitting there and I can shoot the gong and do the same thing.
Right.
Oh, good.
That's been a very helpful trick for me to keep from having to go. I've had them just get so wet in the dew in the mornings in the grass that they couldn't fly.
You got to watch
You
them
have to go. Yep. You go pick them up, put them on a tree limb, or bring them in the house and try to dry them off. But that is, and it doesn't have anything to do with the size of your colony. I mean, I guess it does. If you got 4 pairs, you don't have the 4 males to do that. But if you got 16 pairs, it can happen at your colony too. And it's definitely something to keep an eye on. It's worse in the mornings and worse late in the evenings, obviously, but definitely worse in the mornings.
I got 2 duckies wanting fed. Duckies. I got 2 baby duckies too.
Oh, nice.
They're just jealous because we don't have a duck fanatic page.
And
There are duck fanatic pages.
Oh, I know. I'm talking about they're jealous from us.
That's funny.
They come up here in the evening while I'm sitting there watching the birds and they eat cat food.
That's
Hey,
funny.
Greg, have you checked Messenger since we've been on the Zoom meeting?
No.
I sent you a message. This has been the best Zoom meeting we've ever had. I've killed 2 starlings and 2 house sparrows while I've been
I've
sitting
watched
here.
you I've watched you get up a bunch of times.
Well, I want to
Tina.
ask a question on here, talking about the starlings. I won't name any names, but somebody did some modifications to my gourds, and now I deal with starlings. So
Yeah.
no, I understand. Just teasing, Kyle. But anyway, I do have starlings now, and one of the things I saw, and I don't even remember what page it was on, but it was a trap where you, and I've got it partially built, but it's where you put like a fake front on a PVC pipe.
Oh,
And I guess
yeah.
the starlings go in and they go down and get in the trap.
Yeah.
Has anybody used that, and how successful
I have.
Because my problem is when Mike's here, he can shoot the starlings, but I haven't had as much success trying to do that. Like, you know, maybe I need to go sit with Brad for a while and practice. But so anyway, but that how I have killed several of them is I did get a trap to put on my gourds, and I've gotten several of them that way. And even got smart. I've got the little blink cameras, and when I put the trap on a gourd now, I put the blink camera in there so I can keep a real good check on when I catch one. And the last one I caught, which that joker had destroyed my net, one of my nest of 5 eggs. So I took great pleasure in dispatching him on Mother's Day. So anyway, but I just wondered if anybody had much luck with those, because that's definitely something I could use, you know, to try to, and even after the martins leave, you know, to try to keep catching them.
I made one of those when I first moved in here, and it stayed quite busy.
Okay.
The secret seemed to be have 3 on your housing, of course, which you do, and have nice big round holes on the trap. But the real secret is to put that trap like right next to the trees.
I read that somebody had said that too. I don't remember if I read that somewhere. And I've got the pecan trees in my yard out there. So I was thinking I could put it near that, and that would deter the martins maybe from getting in it.
It helps keep the martins from getting in it. The only problem I had was I had a crazy bluebird that liked to go in and ride the elevator trap down several times. So he was a repeat offender, but you know, you just go out and let him go. But anyway, yeah, I had one, and it worked really, really well for years. But I hardly ever have a starling problem anymore. I guess my husband put up a sign outside that said, "Yes, she will shoot you."
Well, and I've tried a little bit, but like I said, I've had better luck just using the
sure.
The little trap door is that you can put on the gourds. But the problem is usually with that, you know, they've already kicked out my martins and taken over a gourd, and you know, I mean, it's better than nothing, but I'd prefer to get some of them, you know, before they did damage if I could.
Do you need the plans for that, Lynn, or have you got?
No, I've already got, I mean, I've built the box. I've got to put the wire on the box. I've got to paint the inside of the pipe black where it, you know, and then just build the little fake front, which is, you know, just a piece of board or something.
The only thing you have to watch out for that trap every once in a while is make sure you go and clean it and check the lever or the can that you use for the tilt part, because they get the poop scared out of them literally, and that'll start changing the weight. Okay. So just trap it, you know, check it every month or so.
Okay.
I'm going to launch the female and see if she can fly.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, while we're watching Greg, Glenn, I'm just going to add to that. I've also had a lot of success with that trap. I will also add to what Kathy said about watching for poop. Watch for wasp nests in that thing too, especially if you leave it up for a long time. The paper wasps will get up in there, and then you'll wonder why the starlings don't want to go in there anymore. So,
okay.
Right.
I have some spare copies of that if anybody wants it. It's an SNS controller.
That's one we have.
Oh, I saw your message the other day, Bill, and I forgot to come back to you on that. Thank you for sharing that here.
Yeah, it's an older version, but Terry Sukma gave me a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So I have these, and I have T14 plans if anybody needs any. Just message me.
Okay. Cool.
She's not ready yet. I may have to keep her overnight.
Bless her heart.
I have a question about predator guard. On this T14, since it's so old and it was Amish made, I need to come up with something creative for it, because of course I have the one that come with the Gemini. I kind of have a close-up picture of it, but I don't know how to get it on here for everybody to see. But it's more or less just 20-foot 2x4s with another certain kind of piece of wood in the middle, and it's all screwed together. And I need to come up with some sort of a predator guard for it. We don't deal with the big snakes like you guys do in the South, but I mean, we have coons and everything else. And I've been racking my brain now that I may have martins this year, what kind of predator guard I can come up with for this thing.
The easiest solution, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say the T14s that I work with, I know Troyer's has it in his catalog, but you can do it yourself as the sheet metal. You make a little collar and you actually adhere that to the bottom of the housing, and then you have the sheet metal around it. So I can't remember the diameter on it. It ends up being like 2 feet or something, it's about 24 inches long, the sheet metal, I think. And then it's like a 2-foot diameter or something underneath that house. And that keeps everything out.
Yeah.
It's a big
Because it
barrel.
just lowers with the house. It lowers with the house and goes up with the house because it's attached to the bottom, to the floor of it.
Is it 2 foot long and 2 foot diameter, Paula?
That's probably about right. I'd have to look. It might be in like an 18-inch diameter. Troyer has it there, but you can do it yourself real easy. Just get the sheet metal, and because you still have to make your own wooden collar. It's a circular collar that you screw up on the bottom of the house, and that sheet metal just adheres to it. So you can do your own real easy.
So in other words, then it's going to be out clear at the top under the T14, and it's not
Correct.
towards the bottom like what comes with the Gemini wrap.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. So it
Is
lowers
that-
when your house comes down. It lowers with it. It's there all the time. It's just, it's a little hard to, depending where your crank is on your housing. You might want to lower that a little bit. The
Oh,
handle.
this one's way at the bottom.
Okay. Well, then you're
On
good.
your hands and knees to make this
Yeah.
one.
It's the knees. No, that is.
But
Yeah.
with the metal, the sheet metal in the heat of summer, is that going to like create a lot of heat?
No, I mean, it's underneath the
Like under
housing.
house?
It's under the house. It won't affect anything.
Okay.
The one we've got is painted white because we have the Troyer one. We went ahead and ordered that, but there's, you could just use the galvanized. I think it would be fine. Galvanized aluminum. Be
I'll
fine.
check that out and see, because I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'll have to get something for it. Hopefully, I'll have to get something for it.
Yeah.
I've been trying to think of what I could do, just to be
Mhm.
prepared.
Does anybody have a picture of that in the Troyer catalog that they could post on our site?
I'm
I can
looking
find
for it.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
Okay, you got it. I was going to ask a question of Kyle too, if I could. Kyle, you
Sure.
still there? Yeah.
Yep. Go
In
ahead.
this latest event we had with the cold weather and everything, and I know tree swallows can eat berries supposedly, to survive. But what we were seeing with the tree swallows, and I've got 11 tree swallow boxes in my yard here, with my martins. They're fine. They're all good. But tree swallows didn't die. They didn't lose. I mean, they're slow getting their nests off, but we'd see them huddled, on tree branches together and huddled together. And it seemed like they were okay. I mean, they could have died somewhere where we didn't find them, but there were no dead ones in the boxes, whereas the martins were, dead in the yard and dead in the gourds. So I was curious, again, working with birds up in the north here, I'm trying to figure out what can they possibly find to eat, even if it's berries. I don't think there's any berries out there now, but maybe there is. What are they eating when we have this terrible weather? Do you know?
So you're right about the berry thing.
Uh-huh.
Just like martins, most of their diet is winged insects. So, like flies, beetles, ants, termites, whatever. But if there are some fruited bushes nearby, they can certainly survive off that for a few days. It's not necessarily fantastic for the digestive tract having to move to like just berries as a sole source of nutrition, but it will sustain them for a while.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I wondered. So, and I know that what's the sumac? I know sumac is a emergency food for bluebirds. Would they eat that also? Because that I see out there now, but there's not a lot of things that survive the winter that I think that anything could eat. But I don't know.
Paula,
Yeah.
I've had I've seen my bluebirds in the dead of winter eating the berries off of my spice bush, and
Okay.
we have buckbrush, a lot of that along around too. I forget the other name for buckbrush, Courtney. You'll have to help me out with that one. But yeah, sumac as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did see that had some stuff on it, but I don't know my plants that well to know. But I was just curious because the tree swallows seemed to make it, and the martins did not do nearly as well as they did. So
I noticed that too here. My tree swallows came back because we had such a mild winter, and then we had that weak spell of really cold, wet rain, snow. and mine were still here, and I couldn't figure out what they were eating, but they seemed to do just fine through it. They were still flying around, and I think they went to the neighbor's pond down over the hill where the water, I'm sure, was warmer, and they were picking up some bugs there. But mine didn't seem to be affected by it near like that martin was that came here that day.
Yeah.
Another factor in that too, I think, is probably the timing of the arrival of the tree swallows versus the purple martins, which I don't know how long the martins have been in residence that you lost, but your tree swallows. My point is, your tree swallows have probably been there long enough to feed up and fatten up after migration, where some of your purple martins may have only arrived the day before the day of the cold front, so they were thin from migrating.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Brad. I hadn't thought of that, but my tree swallows get here anywhere from a week to 2 weeks earlier. Sometimes they arrive together, but it's rare anymore. Bugbush is also called coralberry, Paula. That's the word I was looking for, but those are the two they eat here.
Yeah, they'll. I've known them to eat bayberry too. Another potential source that you may have, I forget where you are in the country, but they'll hunt spiders as well. So if you have any spiders making webs in open areas, they will certainly take those too.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too. We got a lot of spiders here, I know, on the island for sure, but this place is crazy. We just had the big June bug. It must be May because the June bugs were hitting the house last night. So
oh my God.
It sounded like hail. It was like hail. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's here too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
You go outside, they land in your hair and you freak out.
You get June bugs in May in Ohio, and we get them in July in Alabama.
Same here. We get them in July in North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we get June bugs in May, and we get mayflies in June. Go figure.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Yeah. And the Japanese beetles are next.
Yeah.
So everyone in the South wishes y'all had kept them in the North. Thank you.
So we have a couple folks we haven't heard from. Jason, I see your picture. How's your colony doing? Hey.
It's doing good. I was listening to y'all a while ago. About 2 weeks, week and a half ago, I had a real good slurge of young birds, but it's calmed down now, and I've got different stages of I'm sorry about this radio. Let me turn it down. I've got different stages of nest building going on, and my older birds, y'all seen where I got the ladder and got up there the other day to check it because I hadn't been able to check it because it's a layover rack. But every one of those gourds had at least 5 eggs in them, and that's the older colony that was there because that was the only rack that's been there for the past few years. But the other racks I added, I think I got some new birds in there, and some of them's got 6 eggs, and some of them's got 1 or 2. So it's a little mixture of adult birds and the young ones too. But I'm very happy and very impressed.
That's awesome.
Good
news. Sounds like things are progressing with your colony right now. That's awesome.
I'm very fortunate to have the lake and everything, because back a long time ago, before we stayed in a camper over there before we got the land cleared, I would sit over there and there was martins always bathing and drinking out there, and just a natural place that they was coming to in our area. There's a lot of martin housing around here, but as soon as I put the rack up, they immediately went to it. So I'm blessed.
That's fantastic. And you want to tell us about your other news? You have 3 other people.
Oh yeah, I was talking to Kathy. I called her earlier today and just posting some small clips on my Facebook page of what I've been doing around here. I've had 3 others that's called, and my chief, he called me the other day, or at the office the other day. He said, "Hey, I went to Tractor Supply and bought me one of those martin houses." I started laughing. I said, "You did what?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You're not the bird kind of guy." He said, "Well, I like what I saw." And he said, I got one. If you come look at it, make sure it's in the right place. And I mean, it was funny though, but there's several around here that's reached out. Bless their heart. A lot of them, are just want Martin so bad, and it's crazy that some people try so hard not to, and then some are just saying a lot of that. But maybe there's an answer one day.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing. And
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's been a really. I was on a few other sites before I settled with this site here, and I don't know. I felt kind of at home on this page here, and there ain't a lot of bickering going on. I just enjoy it. It's just my spare time to sit here and see what's going on in everybody else's house.
Well, we appreciate you being here, Jason, and thank you. We try to run a smooth operation here. Of course, Courtney's kind of wild sometimes, but
got one more question I wanted to ask y'all. I was talking to Kathy today about it. I'm getting a Father's Day present, and I'm going to get some new gourds, but I wanted to, I bought 3 of the super gourds this year and put on my granddad's rack because I can't nest check it. I have to lay the rack over. With the super gourd, I was able to lay it over and they'll stay up, and I can still do nest checks with it. But that's what I was going to do, is get them to get me for my Father's Day present. There's enough gourds for that rack and that rack only. But Brad, when I look at y'all's racks, when y'all hang those Troyers with the tonals, the vertical gourds, I can't put it on with a hook. What I'm saying, I'm gonna have to put it on with a wire. So is it tilt? Do they tilt over bad or what?
No, Jason. I've got I don't know how many gourds I've got. 160, I think, hanging this year. Every one of them are hung with wire that goes from the left to the right side. So mine are free to spin frontwards and backwards. And no, you can hang them with wire just like you would a super gourd. I just, the Troyer gourds come with a hole pre-drilled from front to back to hang them on the rods that come on the Troyer racks. I just fill those holes with Lexel and drill a small hole from left to right. There's a little dimple there already. So just drill a hole from left to right and hang them with wire, and they'll swing just like the super gourds, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with super gourds. I like them a lot too. I just have put Troyer tunnels on all of mine. Troyer gourds are $1 a piece cheaper than the super gourds. So, I mean, either one's great in my opinion. But.
Okay. Well, that's what I decided to do. I told Kathy I can't get rid of my granddad's gourd rack. So I'm going to fix it where I can lay it over slowly and do my nest checks instead of just replacing it. So.
Yeah.
Brad, just for added information here, what size wire do you use to hang your gourds?
It's roughly 12 gauge. I can find the Amazon link that I used to hang them with copper wire, but I would replace it every couple of years because copper is really soft. And when COVID hit, the price of everything went through the roof. So I looked for something different. We use a high tensile galvanized wire on the farm for electric fences. So I looked in that area and I found some wire on Amazon. It's 12 gauge galvanized and it's dirt cheap. It's like $9 or $10 for 100-foot roll. So I bought a couple rolls of that, and now it's stiff. It's very stiff, but Jason would have absolutely no problems bending it around like he needs it to. And I can post a link to that if anybody wants to see it. But
okay,
it's just galvanized steel wire.
Hey, Brad, will you go into a little bit about hanging with wire? Once you drilled that hole, you put a piece of pipe through there and Lexelled it, right? So it wouldn't get water in.
I did. That was something I used to do a lot of people used to do on natural gourds was to, of course, back then, everybody hung their gourds with wire. And we would take copper tubing and drill a 3/8 hole through the gourd neck and stick the copper tubing through and caulk it in place. That as the gourds swing, if you're using natural gourds, they'll wear the hole out, make the hole bigger and longer. And we would do that just to make the gourds last longer. But I did it on my Troyers just to or on all my gourds, just to keep rainwater from entering right there, because a tremendous amount of water can get in the gourds on the hanging hole, especially if you're hanging with wire and it just runs down the wire and runs into the gourd. Probably not nearly as bad on gourds that are hung on rods, because it's a more snug fit. So I did it just to keep the gourds dry, kind of.
And it's all clocked in. Yes.
Well, we have a new translation for Brad.
Should I wait for the screenshot that you're going to post, or are you going to tell me now?
Close caption it.
Closed caption. I'm gonna screenshot it and post it.
What does it say?
Gourds are now gorge. Gorge.
Gorge.
Okay.
Gorge.
Not quite as good as inky bacon, but that's good.
For those of you who don't know, I was going on some long talking rant about incubation on one of our first Zoom calls 2 years ago, and it auto-corrected or typed out my incubating as inky bacon. So you'll see that post still posted from time to time on the Fanatics group.
Well, I'll have you know that I am compiling a dictionary.
So I wish somebody would. I mean, I get tired. I get so tired of the rest of the world not knowing how to talk.
Well, I'll tell you, Brad, it has now spread beyond PMF. I'm now seeing inky bacon in other Martin groups.
Right.
No, you are not.
Yes, I am.
I knew I should have trademarked that saying. I knew, copyrighted it, whatever you do to a saying. I knew it.
Oh gosh.
Let's call it a Bradism.
That's right, Bradism.
All right,
Lynn,
folks.
you said. Lynn, I'm gonna say one other thing
Okay.
before we get off here. Lynn Daniel, are you still on? I don't have our group of participants on.
I am. I'm still here. Go ahead and insult me.
I'm not gonna. No, I'm not gonna insult. I'm not gonna insult your lovely Southern drawl. And I'm not picking on you. I just I hear this comment. I hear this comment a lot. I shoot a lot of sparrows and a lot of starlings every year, and I rarely ever miss. Greg Ballard is a world-class marksman. He probably never misses. One thing Greg Ballard and Brad Biddle have in common is we have shot tens of thousands of rounds of ammunition.
Right.
You will never get good. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying everybody in general, because everybody that I am a mentor for, and that number grows all the time. That is the biggest thing I try to get them to do in the off season is practice shooting. If you've got a pellet gun or a 22 rifle, ammunition is cheap. Get out and shoot. It's fun for one thing. But when if I'm shooting at a dot, Greg's holding his up too. If I'm shooting at a dot and I miss the dot, I'm angry at myself a little bit. If I shoot at a house sparrow and I miss a house sparrow, I am furious with myself.
Right.
But
well, my thing is with the starlings too, whereas, Mike shot several of them because they would go out in the beginning, especially they'd be sitting on top of my gourd rack. And that was where I was a little afraid too. Cause I was like, if I miss that thing and pop one of my gourds or whatever I do, but, like I said, you're absolutely right. And it's funny you say that. Our next door neighbor had a shooting range which we haven't shot anything but handguns there, but we're actually talking about getting this stuff and setting something up in the back of my property. And that would be a great thing for me to do in the wintertime too, is when I'm doing the handguns, is also to practice that. So I could shoot those rascals because, there's been plenty of times when he wasn't here that I'd see him just sitting out in the yard, pecking around in the grass and stuff like that, that if I was a little better at shooting them, I could have, Of course, the thing is, once you shoot at them a couple of times, you get smart.
Lynn, I will tell you,
can you hear it?
Brad, the best absolute thing I have done this year to help improve my accuracy is to buy that tripod stand. It's $110 or something.
Mhm.
And boy, it has really helped my shooting a lot.
Greg's holding. Greg, you'll have to say something so it'll show up on the screen.
I see
All
it.
right. Yeah, looks like this.
Oh.
Yep. I've got one of those
One is
too.
that, Greg?
Mine is a bog pod. I don't know if Greg's is a bog pod or
Mine's a Caldwell, but the same company.
Yeah.
Mine's a Caldwell Max Pod.
They make Bog makes one called a death grip.
Yeah.
That I wish I had bought instead of the tripod that I have. It actually clamps onto the forearm of your rifle like a vise, so you pick up rifle, tripod, and all in one piece. It's got a padded arm on it, so you can lay it over your shoulder and walk around with it. But that's the key to good shooting is, yeah, we've shot tens of thousands of rounds a piece, probably hundreds of thousands of rounds a piece, but neither one of us go shoot at a sparrow offhand. We're both
not very often.
We're both using a good rest when we do. I'm lucky that I'm left-handed.
I want to show you. I'm going to show you something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're going to find this is really probably hilarious if you can see it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I actually shoot an awful lot off my leg.
Off your leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very stable position.
It is.
So just off my leg. So
I know this was I had my arm my elbow propped on my leg a minute ago. Yes, because I only had 1 point of rest, and that's to get a good rest. You want the fore end of your gun solid on something, and you want your trigger finger elbow on something. And maybe we need to do another Zoom call about shooting and accuracy, but hitting a house sparrow at 30 yards is not that hard if you've got a lot of trigger time. It just needs to be muscle memory. You don't need to even have to think about it. You just need to be able to aim, squeeze, and crisp trigger.
I had sparrows a couple of years ago, one sparrow that tried to get one of my gourds, and we got rid of him. And even this year with the gourds modified, I still I haven't had any sparrow problems. But now, see, I don't feed birds and never have here. So that's probably one thing. The only, I have the mockingbirds, I have cardinals, a few doves. I've got bluebird nest in the back that has 5 babies right now, and then my purple martins, and of course now the starlings. A couple of woodpeckers.
I don't feed birds either. All you got to have is a very irresponsible neighbor like I do that has about 25 decorative birdhouses in his yard, and they're all full of house sparrows. He lives right over my head there in that big white house, if you can see it. But
and they come right on over there, yeah.
They do. I kill way over 100 a year, and have for the last 20 years. So
I think that's how I eliminated my problem, because I had nothing but house sparrows and starlings. And when I first got into the purple martin last year and I was reading how big of a threat they were, I just eliminated all seed. The only thing I have out is a couple of suet cakes, and they're the upside down woodpecker ones that sparrows and that can't access. And ever since I did that, so far this year, I haven't even seen a house sparrow or a starling. But when you start talking about those type of birds, one of the things I did want to ask is, we have a lot of those big turkey vultures. Now, they mainly feed on dead carcasses and whatnot. They're not a threat in that manner to a purple martin, but when they're flying overhead, they look like an enormous hawk.
Yeah.
They also fly in groups. You'll see 3, 4, 10 of them. And I often wonder if the martins aren't threatened by that, knowing that they're not going to eat them or invade their nest, but it just looks like a massive hawk. And there's always several of them.
They know the difference.
They do.
They can even identify what kind of hawk is flying around.
Okay. I wasn't sure and I wanted to ask because I had that today with those two that were here. I had 4 turkey buzzards circling and I'm like, I wonder if they'll get spooked by that because they look like massive hawks.
I've had a couple of times. Matter of fact, when I was out taking pictures a few weeks ago, I had some sort of large hawk. Of course, he was pretty high up in the air, but he was flying over and the martins couldn't care less. And I said something to Mike about it. His daughter, they used to live, well, he lived in Idaho. Their kids are still out there, but she worked at for summer one year, a raptor place. And he was telling me that he said like a lot of the bigger hawks, they won't even try to get something like a martin because the martin is so agile and small, they're not even interested in it. You know, they know they probably couldn't catch it anyway. So it was interesting, but there's times when, you know, something is around that they're scared of and, you know, they start making all kind of noise. So.
Well, I didn't know with me trying to be a new landlord, if that could be a problem with just them being in the area circling, if the martins would come in and say, oh, this is scary, hawk invasion, let's go.
No, it won't.
Okay. It was something I just wanted to clarify.
Sure, no problem.
I've got 2 eagles that stay in around the lake, and I've got 2 ospreys that's just started coming around, and it's amazing. Talking about you're talking about those, they know which one's the eagle, the osprey. They'll try to run that osprey off a little bit, but they're not threatened by it. A hawk, they scatter, but the ospreys, they'll fly up there at it. So that tells me they know that it ain't gonna turn and get them real quick because they're chasing them off. But and then I got ducks and stuff that fly in all the time, and I've always wondered the same thing, but they learn and they don't scatter when certain birds come in, big birds too.
Well, that's good to know because we have bald eagles and ospreys here. I actually have a bald eagle that's been kind of circling through here on a daily basis. I see them, but it was just something I was worried about, that just knowing that bird is here, if it would possibly just scare them off, because knowing that the purple martin's usually the more timid bird.
No.
You got bears. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I will send you the video that I sent Bill Wenger, and you will not believe it, but this bear walked right across my front door and he picked his nose up and he sniffed my wreath and my big outdoor garbage can that's by the door. Thank goodness it was empty. I just put a new bag in it. His chin was on top of the lid. And guesstimating the size of how wide he was, his feet, and the space across his head to his ears, we're guessing he's roughly between 400 and 500.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm worried more about him. All right, folks. It's we have had a lot of
time.
It's been fun.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Lou, keep us posted how it goes with the great crested flycatchers.
Oh,
We
and
will. I
Lou,
will. Yes. I will.
Lou, you said you're in Olive Branch, Mississippi.
Yes, I am.
Are you pretty close to Coldwater?
About 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, my aunt lives there.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I ever come down to visit, I'll get a hold of you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
As soon as they said that, I was very familiar with that town because she lives close by there.
Cool.
That's
Thank
interesting.
you all for being here, and let us know in the group if you have any more questions.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Not
Bye.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.